This is my oral presentation about a changing world. In the past few weeks, I've been working with this topic, a changing world. I personally have reached a new level of comprehension to the subject English. Furthermore, I've been teach about the surrounding world, but most importantly, I've learned about myself and my own opinions. During the past weeks, I have, of course, along with my class, worked with several texts who dealt with the topic a changing world. The first text I want to talk about is also the first text that we read, England under attack. The texts deal with the history of England and how several nations have invaded and affected their country and heritage. Examples of that could be when the Romans arrived and occupied the country for almost 400 years. As a relic from the Romans, the elite and people from the church learned their language Latin and spoke it till today. If we stay to the subject language, the huge amount of foreign visitors infected that language as they infected ours. We work with the Danish and English words to ensure from each of the languages. But not only the Vikings invaded England. Also Angles and Saxons from northern Europe invaded England along with their King Arthur. Also, the last time they were attacked and conquered was in 1066. This time it was Duke William from Normandy. They ruled the country and declared all people who were living in the country to be their slaves. Which lead me to the second text that we read. The text was about the American Revolution. On July 4th, 1776, America declared its independence from Great Britain. This happened after a long fight between the two nations. After centuries of Britain colonies in America, who earned thousands of dollars to the English government without having any influence of members in the parliament, that created a huge amount of people who felt some kind of unfairness, which led to the Great Tea Party. It started a long and bloody war between the two nations. Finally, in 1783, America became a united country, but still a lot smaller than the country we all know today. The world we know today isn't the same as from 50 years ago. We have a major crisis with global warming, which is what the next text is about. We worked with the text, what global warming is. We made tasks about what we could do to help global warming and tried to explain it with our own words. On top of that, we also read Temperature on the Rise. It was a text about the consequences of global warming. As the weather changes, the people does too. The fourth text we read is about terrorism and how to define it. Due to the text, a lot of people think that terrorism is related to weapons, but terrorism is more than that. Terrorism is also to hack a computer to get a private information. When we worked with this topic, we talked about it with our own words in front of the class. The fifth text we read deals with terrorism during the years. It tells us about a concrete example of terrorism which the dagger men were responsible of. How they killed people with daggers and afterward disappeared into a crowd. It does not sound like a terrorism we are familiar to, but between 14th and 18th centuries, terror was used as a weapon to fight for their opinion. But not only to fight for their opinion. They used terror as a way to get power. Due to the text, the word terrorism is short from French. In 1968, the old terrorism had its end. It was the start of a new chapter. The year of Palestinian organization hijacked an airplane and kept the victim for almost 5 weeks. At the end of the text, we read about the biggest terror attack in history of the world, 9/11. It was attacked by Al-Qaeda on New York and Washington. The last text we read is about to fight terrorism, how nations and governments all over the world have tried to fight terrorism in several ways. The so-called War on Terror. This phrase was used for the first time by President George W. Bush. When we worked with this text, we talked about the meaning of this phrase. Fighting terrorism is like being a goalkeeper. You can make 100 brilliant saves, but the only shot that people remember is the one that gets past you. I myself construed the quotation as a way to say that we as human beings only remember when things go wrong instead of what goes right. On top of that, we also made an assignment about the difference between a freedom fighter and a terrorist. Thank you for listening. May you all have a wonderful Christmas.